Have you ever looked at a government payslip and just felt completely lost? You know, it can feel like you're trying to solve a puzzle. Well, today, we're going to put all those pieces together. We're breaking down the pay structure for public servants in Mato Grosso, Brazil, and it's all based on one really important law from 1990. Let's dive in and see what we can find. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by decoding the payslip, just getting the basic terms right. Then we'll get into the fun stuff, the plus in the salary, all those extra advantages. After that, we'll look at what happens when a job demands a little more. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by talking about the balance between rights and duties. By the end of this, you'll see the whole picture, clear as day. All right, first things first. Before we can talk about the total package, we've got to get the language right. So let's break down the key terms that you'll find on basically every public servant's payslip in this system. Okay, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. I mean, these words all sound kind of the same, right? But in the world of public administration, they mean very, very different things. So what is the real difference? Let's get into it. It really boils down to three different ways of getting paid. First up is the subsidio. Think of this as one single all-inclusive payment. No hidden bonuses, no extras. It's designed to be super transparent. Then you've got vencimento. Now that's the base pay for a career public servant, and it's set by law. And finally, there's salario, which is probably the one you're most familiar with. It's just like in the private sector for public employees who are under standard labor laws. And now we get to the most important word of all, remuneração. This is the big one. This is the number that really matters. It's what you actually take home. It's your base pay, the vencimento, plus all the other financial perks, which are called vantagens. And this little formula here makes it super simple to understand. Base vencimento plus vantages equals your total remuneration. I like to think of it like a recipe, right? The vencimento is your main ingredient, and all the vantages are the spices and extras that make up the final dish. But of course, public pay isn't just a free-for-all. There's a salary cap, or a teto, as it's called. And in Mato Grosso, that ceiling is pegged to the highest paid people in each branch of government, whether that's a state secretary, a member of the assembly, or a judge. It's a way to keep everything in check. Okay, we've got the base pay down. Now let's get into the really interesting part, those vantagens. These are all the extras that get stacked on top of the base pay, and they come in a few different flavors. So, everything falls into one of these three buckets: indemnities, gratuities, and additions. And here's the key difference right up front. Indemnities are just reimbursements for costs. They don't become part of your salary. But gratuities and additions, those can become a permanent part of your pay. That's a huge distinction. Let's zoom in on indemnities for a second. The most important thing to get here is that this is not a pay raise. It's the government paying you back for money you had to spend to do your job. That's exactly why it isn't taxed, and why it goes away the moment you stop having that expense. And the two most common types you'll see are from moving around. Ajuda de custo is a one-time lump sum to help you cover the costs if you have to permanently move for a new job. Dietas, on the other hand, are per diems for short-term travel. They cover things like food and hotels. So one's for moving, the other's for visiting. Simple as that. Okay, so we're moving on from just getting paid back for expenses. Now we're talking about getting paid more for special situations. This is where gratuities and additions come into play. Extra cash for specific circumstances or tough working conditions. And here's a quick tour of the big ones. You've got things tied to the calendar, like the Christmas bonus, which is like a whole 13th salary, and a vacation bonus. Then you have pay for specific conditions, like working in hazardous jobs or pulling overtime and night shifts. And finally, there's a bonus that's all about rewarding loyalty, the time in service bonus. And that time in service bonus is a perfect example of rewarding loyalty. Here's how it works. For every single year you work, your base pay goes up by 2%. It just keeps building year after year, all the way up to a 50% boost. It's a really tangible way to thank people for sticking around. This chart lays out the extra pay for working those odd hours perfectly. If you work overtime, that's serviço extraordinario, you get paid 50% more for every hour. And if you're working the night shift, that adicional noturno gets you a 25% bonus for each hour you're on the clock. All right, we've talked a lot about the money, but being a public servant isn't just about the paycheck. So let's shift gears and look at the other side of the coin, the balance between rights, like taking a vacation, and the duties that are expected of you. The right to a vacation is a pretty big deal. It's simple. After you work for 12 months, you earn 30 days of paid time off. And get this, there's a bonus. You get your regular pay plus an extra 1/3 of that amount, all paid out before you even pack your bags. And this right is seriously protected. You can't just have your vacation cut short for any old reason. It has to be for something major, like a public disaster, getting called for jury duty, or something else legally defined as a superior public interest. They do not take interrupting it lightly. Which leads to a pretty fair question, right? With a system of rights and benefits this well defined, what does the law ask for in return? Well, that brings us to the other side, the duties, and the things you're absolutely not allowed to do. And this right here, this is one of the very first duties listed, and it really gets to the heart of what public service is all about. It's not just about clocking in and out. It's about doing your job with real care, with zeal, with dedication to your role and to the people you're serving. And on the flip side, you have the absolute no-goes. This one is a critical red line. You are strictly, absolutely forbidden from using your official position for your own personal gain or to help someone else get an unfair advantage. It's a powerful firewall against corruption. So, when you put it all together, you realize this is about so much more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. Understanding this whole system, from base pay to bonuses, from rights to responsibilities, is really about understanding what public service means and all the rules that are there to protect it. So, we'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you've seen all the building blocks, the rules, the rewards, the responsibilities, does it change how you think about the role of a public servant? It's a pretty complex system designed to get that balance between compensation and duty just right. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.